So, holy shit. The university statement on the U.S. Department of Education letter regarding non discrimination practices. Jesus. You're probably like, oh, what's that about? The University of Princeton just got their funding cut. You're probably like, oh, that's a bit extreme. According to the Civil Rights Act, anybody who's receiving government funding, or basically taxpayer, cannot discriminate based off of race, age, gender, or anything like that. Guess what the University of Princeton just said? More specifically, the director of it. They're racist. They just got their funding cut. They're like, okay, you want to be You want to pretend to be racist? Okay. I'm taking that money though. Well, okay, let's go read this news article. The letter of the department's reactions to the presidents of the University of Princeton says the steps we are taking to address systemic racism at Princeton beyond and beyond. Princeton has long been committed to maintaining a community where they can thrive, and stands by representations to the department and public complies with all laws and regulations governing equal opportunity, non-discrimination, and harassment. The work is core to the university teaching and the research mission, and we are vigilant in the pursuit of equality in the aspects that are programs and operations. The university also stands by the statement that our prevalence of systemic racism and our commitment to reckon with its continued effects. In other words, hey, give us money. We didn't do anything. But we're also still racist. Um, yeah. So first we're going to watch a I'm going to go read a Fox News article, and then we're going to go to a CNN article about the same thing. Okay, headline is Department of Education to investigate Princeton after president amidst systemic racism. That's the other thing I forgot. Princeton is now under an investigation for discrimination. So let's go read this article. The Department of Education announced its investigation of Princeton University after its president said racism is embedded at the Ivy League school and in society, according to a new report. In an open letter published earlier this month, Princeton President Christopher L. Elliscrum outlined his plan to tackle systemic racism at the university and elsewhere. Racist assumptions from the past also remain embedded in structures of the university itself, he wrote. For example, Princeton inherits from earlier generations at least 9 departments and programs organized around European languages and cultures, but only a single relatively small program around African studies. How is that racist? How is that racist? No, seriously, tell me how is that racist? Also, you're the president, Jesus Christ. Okay, if me not talking about African subjects is racist, and then draw me a toothbrush on my below my nose, and I'll start saying Heil Hitler. If racism and the damage it does to people of color persists at Princeton, as uh, Alice Grunberg wrote, then the school may be violating a proportion of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. According to the letter, the Department of Education to Princeton obtained the Washington Examiner. The Department of Education also sent formal records requesting and investigating whether Princeton lied about adherence to the Civil Rights Act and to receive federal funds. The outline reported the federal investigation are looking for evidence to support the systematic racism claims. Based on its admitted racism, the U.S. Department of Education is concerned Princeton's non-discrimination and equal opportunity ensures the program participating and agrees from at least 2013 to present day may have been false. And a portion of the letter published by the examiner reads, "The department is further concerned that Princeton perhaps knew or should have known these assurances were false at the time they were made." That's the entire article. Now let's go to CNN, my favorite website. Okay. Let's just go skip CNN because I couldn't find an article. Let's go to the New York Post. Princeton faces federal probe for admitting racism remains embedded there. Princeton University could be forced to pay back millions of dollars in federal funding, and also fined over the president's recent admission that racism persists in Ivy League institutions. A letter to the Princeton president, Christopher, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, the Department of Education said it was opening an investigation on September 2nd, letter in which it outlined the school's effort to combat systemic racism. Among other things, you said racism and the damage that it caused to people of color persist at Princeton, and racist assumptions remain embedded in the structures of the university itself, Assistant Secretary Robert King at the Office of the Post-Secondary Education wrote. Princeton admitted racism raises questions on the accuracy of the non-discrimination and the equal opportunity assurance it's made to the Department of Education in exchange for more than $75 million in taxpayers. $75 million. So they're going to have to pay $75 million if they find that there is racism. And if they don't, guess what? They're going to say, well, we're still racist, and the Department of Education will say, how? And then they'll launch another investigation. And if they make false claims, I'm going to guarantee they're probably going to be fined. Okay, based on the facts, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos may consider measures against Princeton for false program agreement, participation agreement, non-discrimination assurances, include an action to recover funds. Also, she may consider measures against Princeton for making substantial misrepresentations about the nature of the education program, including a fine proceeding. So, how many other universities are going to claim that they're racist? Next, the Wall Street Journal. Princeton faces federal probe after acknowledging past racism. That's misleading. They said they're still racist. So, already, Wall Street Journal, negative. And the reason why I didn't say anything negative about the two is they fairly reported it. But this one says they acknowledged past racism. No, they said that they were still racist. Whatever. Into the article, see if I can nitpick more. The U.S. Department of Education has launched a civil rights investigation into Princeton University after the school's president said the institution has a long history of racism. That's not what he said. He said, earlier he said that racism still exists. If you remember the two articles before, there's direct quotes. And they say, guess what? That the thing's still racist. The university. Jesus. Like Joe Biden. The Princeton probe is at least a third of the time in 4 months that the federal officials have investigated elite colleges over race-based issues. Based off of its admitted racism, the U.S. Department of Education is concerned that Princeton's non-discriminatory and equal opportunity assurances in its program to participate agreements from at least 2003 to the present may have been false. Princeton spokesman Ben Chang said to the school has complied with all laws and regulations governing equality opportunity. Yes, like that one saying you can't discriminate based off of race. You know, that thing called the Civil Rights Act. And what'd you say you were again? Oh, yeah, racist. Okay, it is unfortunate that the Department of Education appears to believe that grappling honest with the nation's history and current events of systemic racism runs all through the existing law, Mr. Chang wrote in an email. The university disagrees and looks forward furthering our education mission by planning why our statements and actions consist not only with the law but also with the highest ideals of aspiration of this country. So far, they've just said, yeah, governments suck. Republican bad because she is a Republican. They've basically all just they haven't provided any critical journalism. Princeton has received millions in dollars from the federal government to be eligible. It has to attest that it wasn't excluding anyone on the bias of race, color, or national origin. The department's investigation was sparked by a letter from Princeton President Christopher Ells, I can't pronounce his last name, wrote on September 2nd in response to the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. I can speak on that. George Floyd OD'd on meth and fentanyl, and he was saying I can't breathe before the cop put his knee on his neck. Breonna Taylor, she was holding a gun, even if they got a wrong search warrant, or even if they got the wrong place. She had a gun, and also she wasn't sleeping in her bed. Or if most people sleep with their gun in their hand, with their eyes open in the hallway. Well, if that's how she was sleeping, I mean, Jesus. I mean, you can't blame the cops in that one. Um, by police and protesters that followed, and he condemned the university's passing intentionally and systematically exclude people of color, women, Jews, and other minorities. Today, Mr. I can't pronounce your last name, added racism continues and persists at Princeton. Here's a direct quote. Persists at Princeton as in our society sometimes by conscious intention but more often through unexamined assumptions and stereotypes, ignored or insensitivity, and a systemic legacy of past decisions and policies. Persist at Princeton, unconsciously examined through assumptions and stereotypes. Well, you've just said you're racist. You've just said everybody who's a politician is racist. So your Wonder Girl, Kamala Harris, racist. You're Joe Biden, your puppet, racist. Bernie Sanders, racist. Princeton's board of trustees voted in June to remove the Woodrow Wilson name from its public policy school because what they called his racist thinkings and policies. Before he was a U.S. president, he served as a president of the university. Okay, that's it. Oh wait, hey Yale. The Justice Department concluded in August after a 2-year investigation that the Yale University discriminates against whites and Asians. Oh. And federal officers threatened legal action if the school didn't change its practices. Yale has called the findings baseless. Um, yeah, Let's go to Yale's website. Let's go to Yale's website. Let's see if they practice affirmative action. So I went to Yale's official website to study to maximize productivity. Affirmative action should continue. Okay, well, you're like, okay, well, what web address is this? https insights some yale.edu. No. Let's. Oh, what's this? Thurgood Marshall and the new need for affirmative action. Affirmative action plan covered veterans. What are the regular effects of affirmative action? Affirmative action. Oh, let's go read the first article. Let's go read the first article. Let's see what it's about. Maximizing the productivity of the workforce will require ongoing policies to boost minority participation, according to a study by Yale's SOM, Anne Ori, and Michelle Mueller, in the IT of the University of Notre Dame. In fact, the optimal system to overrepresent minorities. Now, how would you overrepresent a minority? That's interesting. I mean, isn't Yale like one of the most highly sought after universities? So I wonder who has the, highest IQ. Oh, let's see how it goes. Let's see. Race. This is a charged topic. If you assume intelligence, whatever. Okay. Shoot. The race is, and whites turn in a store better than blacks. On average. Oh, what a shame. So to overrepresent, you'd either have to have less white people and Asians going to Yale, or you'd have to discriminate. So let's go look at Yale's attempted entries. So let's see how diverse races. Shoot. Okay, this is stupid. This graph is bad. So race by ethnicity, there's 5,000 white students, 700 black students, 1,000 Asian students. Well, Yale, you don't look to be overrepresenting at all. So either you're lying or you fixed. Now this, whatever. But this is big news because colleges now can't just say, oh yeah, we're racist. Okay, you're racist? Funding gets cut. So that's why I'm making this video.